If you've been trying to use the ground, pushing off, pushing into, trying to get some vertical force and really tap into that speed that you see everyone talking about, and also the videos you see on our channel in the lessons, you'll see them doing exercises and you've probably tried them yourself and thought, well, I don't know if I'm feeling this right or not. Well, you might be missing some vital components, and this is the exercise I want you to explore, because this is what most people miss. So guys, what I want you to do is I want you to jump straight into this exercise. I want you to feel what it's like to spring load your legs, because it's these mechanisms that are already inherent in our systems. We've been using these since we could walk. The moment we started to walk and then we started to run and jump was the moment we started to really become expert movers without realizing it, and develop a really expansive movement skill set that we can adapt to other things. But in golf, we seem to be missing them. But I want you to reintroduce them. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to take your lead foot. So for me, that's my left foot as a right-hander. And I'm going to take a split stance, like a lunge. And all I want you to do is I want you to just push off your back foot. You can allow your heel to lift. Just let your front knee bend. And then what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to let the knee fall inside the big toe. Very gentle. Now what I want you to do to load this up even more, because that's okay, we're loading up the foot, but we've got to load up the rest of the leg, and then we've got to load up the hip. I want you to just let your lead hip just glide out to the side. So for me, just gliding it out to the lead side there. So it's kind of moving on a diagonal. I've got my hip moving out at, say, 10 o'clock, foot's at 12, knees at 1 o'clock. Back foot, I'm just pushing off the toe, and I'm just letting my pelvis shift forward. So essentially what we're doing is we're corkscrewing the leg. This is a natural collapse of the leg, and it's a natural loading of a spring. Because once you've got into this place, what I want you to do then is I want you to spring out and come back. It's going to throw you back. Essentially, you've internally rotated the hip, and now you're going to push off to externally rotate. And notice how fast you can do it when you pop it off the toe. So this is the drop, and then pushing off the toe is the pop. You can let your shoulders rotate a bit more. Notice how they react now. Allow the shoulders to move. Allow the rib cage to rotate. Hi guys, I'm here at the Golf Groove in London. We've just run a GRF golf school. It's been an amazing day. And our next stop is America. We're coming over to California to run two-day golf schools in collaboration with Be Better Golf. I can't wait for this. So if you're interested in joining us for the GRF golf experience in America, follow the link in the description, and hopefully we'll see you there. So allow the rib cage to rotate with it, and notice the shoulders, they want to go with it. It's a natural spring load. A lot of us are rotating early. Notice how difficult it is to do if you've rotated your rib cage towards the target, or even face on. I can do it now, but if I rotate this way, it's even easier. And this is what a lot of us are missing in our golf swing. We naturally rotate too early because we don't really have a feel of what we should be doing. But if we can feel this lower body movement, the upper body naturally reacts. It wants to move last. The body doesn't want to move this first. Otherwise, you've completely now just negated the use of the lower body. What we want to do is trigger it from the ground. Now, I'm not just getting thrown back. I want you to explore going up. So now I want you to use your rear foot. So you're here, loaded up. Now push off both feet and push up. The knee needs to move in, side the foot, for you to be able to push off. We need to feel it on the trail side too. So I want you to do the same thing on the trail side. Let the knee collapse, push off. Let your body rotate, push off. So in last week's video, we used a step exercise where we went back and stood up. And that allowed us to transfer that momentum. What we're going to do now is we're going to go this way. And this exercise is absolute gold for getting you to load in a way where you cannot do anything else but push off the ground, externally rotate, which is extremely important for firing the pelvis towards the target with rotation, and up, because the pelvis should be going up. We have a shift and then it goes up. This is going to move your pelvis the way it needs to be moved. because if we take this as our centre of mass, which is actually the segmental centre, it's not the front, it's actually inside the lower torso, we can see the journey it makes. Your centre of mass is actually making an infinity shape. It's very subtle, but it's going down and up. It's making this movement. Then it's going to go up. And then if we were to return back to normal standing, it'll come back to centre. It goes up, it drops, and then it pops up again. We're into our finish. And then if we came back to centre, it's back where we started. So let's integrate that into our golf swing, because it's this that we need. It's this. Drop to load, pop to unload, using both legs. So here's the exercise to move on. This is where we now fall into that place where we can push, and you're going to feel where you need to be. You're going to feel the tensioning through the body, ready to push off and get that power. Providing you've got some space, try this with me. Just take your club, start with your feet together. Now you're not going to step and make a big stance, otherwise it's going to make it more difficult to drop. We're just going to explore, first of all, nice easy movements, nice easy step. It's just quite a narrow step we're going to make. Just get the club swinging, and then you're going to take a step to your lead side, but you're going to drop. But notice what I've done. I've turned my foot in. It's 1 o'clock. It's not 12 o'clock. My knee is inside my foot. And look where my hip is. It's outside the knee. I've just created the spring, and now I'm ready to pop it. This exercise is going to give you that perfect feel for that lead leg spring. Now you can push off the ball of the foot and the toe, and the leg fires. It's a wound up coil ready to go. And guess what? This leg is working too. It's doing the same thing. As you step to your lead side, look where this is. Same thing. It's internally rotated. So now this can fire too, because extension requires external rotation. So this exercise gives you the movement for both sides, trail and lead. Now from here, we're pushing off the toes. And notice how it fires the rotation. Pelvis that's gone, it's rotated, but it's gone up. I'm not trying to rotate my hips. I'm not trying to rotate my pelvis. If you've ever thought about clearing your hips or rotating your pelvis, turning the hips, it's just the pure thought of that consciously is too slow to actually do it. And you're really just rotating a segment in space. But where's that power coming from? Because we need the ground to push off, to transfer that momentum, because it's not just a stretch. If we're pushing off the ground, we're going to be transferring momentum much more efficiently. Think about rotation. If I rotate my shoulder and think about rotating back all through, you've seen the guys using the lawnmower analogy, pulling. It's not a pull, because if I pull, yeah, I'm rotating my shoulders, but what I'm doing is I'm pulling this end away from this end. So whatever force I'm using here has to be applied here. Without any intention, I'm having to just apply a big force here to maintain this position. For example, when you rotate back, the hip doesn't just fly with the shoulder. So therefore, by you thinking of rotating your shoulder, you are also compromising what the hip can do. You're essentially immobilizing it to a degree. But if you introduce some linear movement, so now, instead of trying to pull to create some angular momentum, I'm actually going to do the opposite. I'm going to create some lateral movement and some vertical movement. And what this is going to do, it's going to create momentum. Because if you think about it, if we just accelerate, it doesn't have to be over a big distance, but if I accelerate quick and then stop with this end, that carries on. It's like a car doing an emergency stop. Car's traveling along, stops, people go forward. The same thing's happening, and it's also happening vertically. So we can get the push, and then when we decelerate, which will naturally happen, your pelvis doesn't keep going, it slows down, and you get this transfer of momentum, not pulling. And guess what? This works not just in this direction, it works in that direction to the target too. When I'm pushing, you're going to get this same effect. You've got momentum helping you in all these directions, across the joints, transferring momentum through these joints. And this is what's allowing you to transfer that speed effortlessly. And we've got the mechanisms to do it. This step exercise taps into this. Using this on the ground, this could be if you've got a half a tennis ball, that'd be perfect. Find a tennis ball, chop it in two, you've got a dome. You can use this under your trail foot to push off. Push off that to swing the club up. Then take your step. So you've got a feeling of the push off, which is the pop, and then you've got the drop. And then the pop. So you're going to feel both feet engaged. Now, if you're not quite sure what this foot is doing, the lead foot, when it's twisted in at 1 o'clock, you're just springing off. It's the same feeling as the exercise at the beginning, where you let the knee collapse and then pop off the toe and let yourself lift. Don't stay in the floor. We're not just stopping on the ground, we're lifting. Let yourself lift off the balls of your feet. Both feet come up. This is the intensity we need through the chain. The pelvis is going to pop. So we've got the ideal exercise that we can introduce a 2-step movement with. So we can take that away. Now make sure you only make mini steps. We're building this up, and we're building it up now into a full swing that's going to give you a real sense for where you need to be. What is moving, what's activated, how it's activated. You really don't need to overthink this thing. You just need to do the exercise and just go with the flow. And by just doing these exercises, continually doing it, and just being mindful of what you're doing, just being present in the movement as you're doing it, sensing what's happening, but not overthinking it, slowing it down, chunking it. If you find yourself stopping and thinking, where's my knee, where's my hip, where's my foot, just keep making movements and just be mindful of that movement as you're doing it, and just adjust rep to rep to rep to rep, just adjusting with the variability. So you're not trying to get it perfect all in one go at the same time, overthinking things, adding more noise. You're just going to layer up, and you're just going to overthink and take yourself back to square one, where it's all too slow to recognise. It's got to be recognised quick. So you've got to practice at a speed that is dynamic, where you are able to just use your awareness and develop that awareness for what is happening and when. So we're going to make a little swing now, just to get some momentum with the feet together. And then we're going to take half a step back and pop to rotate and swing back. And then just bring the foot back. So we've got the feeling of that backswing. That's last week's tutorial. Now we're going to introduce today's. Now we're going to introduce the drop to go with last week's move. And here we go. It was all over in a blur. It was a blink of an eye and it's gone. I suggest you could slow this down. You'll see the shift. We are winding to the ground in our downswing. The moment we start to unwind is the moment we're now losing our ability to recruit that lower body. The early releasers, the early rotators struggle using the ground, and then when you're trying to do the exercise and use the ground, you're thinking, well, I can't seem to feel it. That's because we haven't got the timing of the rotations right. This exercise is going to time your rotations. It's going to time your sequencing so you can use the lower body. But you've got to be careful how you do it. You've got to be mindful of just making 2 little half steps. Drop and pop back. It's only a mini drop and pop. And then drop and pop to follow through. So this exercise blends everything. It's absolutely brilliant for feeling what your feet should be doing. You're going to feel it. You're going to feel your hips. Not just this part of the hips. People think of this as the hips. The anterior aspect here, the hip flexors, flexion extension. That's what the hips are for too, not just rotating. You're going to feel the feet, the ankles, the toes, the whole chain. And guess what? The upper body and the arms, they just comply. They just react. And that's how we let go. That's how we get the feeling of the arms and the club just swinging, because the rest of the body is doing what it should be. And it starts right at the ground. When we load and unload, we pop to fire. Once you've just done the exercise, grab a ball, normal stance, and this is when you'll really feel the difference. Feel that interaction with the ground. And that is how you drop, pop, and fire.